Can everybody hear me? Okay, if we could all find our seats and simmer down. Everybody finding their seats, everybody calming down. Incredible, incredible. Okay, let's see who else. Yeah, try to find your seats as fast as you can. Okay, incredible. Well, thank you all so much. You guys have traveled far to be here. I'm grateful that we were able to have Haiti and Melinda give our opening remarks on law school. Hopefully you were able to learn a little bit about that. I know that many of you are starting fresh. You're not really sure about where your journey is right now for law school. Some of you are in the thick of your cycle right now for applying to law school. And it's a daunting thing. So we're just really excited that we get to have these panelists here. I have two amazing people here. I have Andrea Fitzgerald, the Director of Admissions at BYU Law. And then I have Isabel Moreno, Director of Admissions at U of U Law. If we can give a round of applause to all of them. Okay, so both bring a wealth of experience, right, from what they are able to provide the students that are prospective students, but also students that are currently attending both law schools. They've been able to help their students along their journey in law school, but after as well, whether that's helping them find resources and network scholarships, as well as just information for what connections they can make here in the state. So just setting expectations, we'll spend the first part of our time with some guided questions so we can understand their perspectives. We have some questions prepared, and then at the end, you'll notice here at the top, there's a Slido code, and you'll basically go to that website. I'll let you know when. You'll enter in some questions, and then I'll be able to see that on my end, and then we'll go ahead and ask them some questions at the end. But what I'll go ahead and just briefly do is, Andrea and Isabel, I know I briefly introduced you guys, but if you could give me like what made you get into this role at BYU or U of U, and a little bit about yourself, that'd be really great. Andrea, if you want to go first, or whoever.
Yes, I do. Am I on? Yeah. Yay! Okay. I'm kind of loud anyways. Okay, so yeah, I'm Andrea Fitzgerald. I'm the Director of Admissions here. I've been here at BYU Law for about 5 years now. Before that, I did litigation in Texas for several years, and it's a lot of fun. I'll give you one little small tip that will save your life as a lawyer in Texas. You pronounce it voir dire. You do not pronounce it voir dire. You will learn what I'm talking about when you go to law school, and everyone will make fun of you, except the people in Texas. They will make fun of you if you say voir dire. That is just your tip of the day. Okay, yeah, so I did litigation there, and also clerked for a federal judge in Fort Worth after law school. My undergrad has absolutely nothing to do with law, so if your undergrad has something to do with law, you're fine. I did fine, you're going to do fine. And I just decided that I didn't really want to be a litigation attorney for the rest of my life. I loved what I did. I just decided I wanted to do something different. I love BYU, and I love the academic, like, higher education, kind of like helping students and whatever. I'm like, wow, a job where you help students? That sounds amazing. So that's what I do now. That's about it.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. I want to applaud the fact that y'all are here on a Friday.
Yeah.
It's very important that you're taking the time to, invest in yourself as you're going through this process. As you heard earlier, my name is Isabel Moreno. I am the Director of Admission and Financial Aid here at the University of Utah Ashay College of Law. I have been in my professional capacity for nearly 10 years. I've been reviewing applications for about that amount of time. And I'm not here to give you a resume. I'm here to let you know, like, the credibility of the information that you're going to be receiving today. I'm heavily involved with the Utah Center for Legal Inclusion, as well as Access Lex Institute and the Law School Admission. I'm like, who's that entity we all work with? The Law School Admission Council. And so with that said, in terms of about me, I too, I'm an alumna of the Utah Law class of 2016. I don't even know what year we're in at this point. I have a higher education background, and so way back before I even started law school, I was actually doing very much similar work to what I do today, but for undergraduate students. And I really love the idea of higher education, but also envision myself pursuing a legal education in the legal space, and so this position it was perfect timing. I got into this role immediately after I graduated from law school. I will add, this was my third job offer before I graduated from law school, and so I mentioned that because networking, I think, can be a key player in opportunities, and that was certainly a factor for me. But I love what we do. I love the law school. I love this view you guys are taking advantage of seeing this morning. And ready to?
Yeah, we're ready for some questions. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you both for that. All right, let's start for this first one. So, for those just beginning their exploration, what makes BYU law or Utah law unique in terms of culture and community?
So yeah, I mean, I think for us, um, we're in Salt Lake City, right? So how many are you from or live in Utah? I shouldn't say from Utah, but live in Utah. Anyone from out of state? Okay, everyone. Oh, okay, one person. Where are you coming from? All right, I'm originally from California, so go all the teams there. Whatever. That said, so yeah, I think for me, a lot of what really sets our students apart is like we have a small intern class, which creates a very collaborative and cooperative community. Our Dean of Student Affairs and his team are very committed to instilling a collaborative workspace. We even have, or study space, I should say, we have what's called Donuts with the Deans once a month, where we invite all of our students to really bring forth any ideas they might have in addition to grievances, and hopefully on occasion some pats on the back for good things that may be occurring at the law school. I feel like that we are in an innovative space where the law, as you'll find, kind of sometimes moves very slowly, like molasses, but I feel like the law school is very committed to remaining on the cutting edge of issues, and that creates just broader opportunities for you. I realize this is really going outside more of the culture, but our students are really we're a small law school. You're all going to get to know each other. The legal community is very small, so keep that in mind. And I think you'll have a great experience in terms of student opportunities and student organizations.
Yeah, so BYU, if you don't know, is about 45 minutes south of here in Provo, Utah. So we're right up next to a different mountain that has a Y on it instead of a U. And and our law school is literally right up by the mountain. So yeah, so I mean, Utah is great. I'm from Texas. The snow took a little while to get used to, but then you live with it, you're okay. But yeah, as far as culture, I would say like our classes are fairly small as well. We have about 120 to 125 incoming students each year. So they definitely get to know each other a lot. And they're very collaborative and they like to help each other out. That just kind of tends to be the kind of law students that we have at the school. And we also have peer mentors as well, that the 2L and 3L students act as peer mentors for the 1L students. That get set up like an orientation. So that can kind of be like your first study group. For most of our students, that'll be like their first study group. But then, you know, they share notes when someone is out of class. They help with outlines. The 2Ls and 3Ls will share their outlines with you. Any questions you have, like, you can always ask the faculty and the staff. Everyone is just very focused on students being successful in like all the areas of their lives. And so, you know, we do have a lot of like wellness programming as well for students who, you know, feel like they, you know, could use some additional help with like stress relief and, you know, time organization. And like we have stuff about like how to network, because I'll be honest, when I went to law school, I hadn't even met an attorney yet. So I didn't really know what networking was. And so it's really nice to just have someone kind of like walk you through it and be like, you know, and it's okay. We're going to learn this together and everything's going to be fine. And so, yeah, I really do love we call it like a whole building approach, and where everyone, like the faculty, the dean, everyone is just focused on like what can we do to help the students be successful and also feel successful, which are not always the same thing. And so let's see. Well, I guess as far as like unique, I guess it's kind of like a culture thing. We have I think it's like for this last incoming class, it was over 70%. It might even have been as high as 80% of our class is bilingual. And so we have a lot of students who are interested in international opportunities. So we have a lot of international opportunities in the summer times for our 1L academies, also for global seminars, which are kind of like study abroad. We have study trips. We have the International Center for Law and Religion Studies. So definitely a global feel to kind of the reach that our students want to have, and also the reach that our alumni have as well. And I will definitely second the networking, getting to know people, and you're going to find a lot of job opportunities that way. So again, if you can start building that confidence early on, like in your first year, or even start building it now of just like talking to people and putting yourself out there, you're going to make your life a lot easier.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrea. So next question, Isabel, I'd love for you to start with this one, but what are some of the common misconceptions when applying to law school, if any? I see you laughing, so I want you to talk about those.
Sure. So I think, and let me be clear, I've sat on these panels so many times and no one's yet disagreed with me. I mean, you all have to read the instructions. The worst thing that you can do for yourself is treat every application the exact same way. You can't just rubber stamp your way through the application process if you're applying to multiple schools. Yes, I want to acknowledge that there is a pretty streamlined process and a lot of commonality between application A, B, and C. However, we're not necessarily reviewing with the same lens, and that's a missed opportunity for you. So for instance, we don't require pagination limitation with our resume. I know that that is a little uncommon for other schools. And I mention that because this is our invitation to you to really flesh out all of those fantastic opportunities you've been engaging in, and I can always tell when someone's applying elsewhere because they reduce, and it's a very intentional reduction of a one-page resume. Do that for the schools that require it. Don't do that for us if you have more to share. So the very number one thing I can share here is review the instructions, follow the instructions for every application you're submitting. Don't make assumptions that you're going to be submitting the same narrative pieces for every institution. I know, for instance, like a personal statement, I think we have a basic understanding of what that is, or at least a standard understanding of what that is. But I could tell you, I have some colleagues at another school where they offer you 8 different prompts that you can select from, and you address what the prompt that you select, right? That's a different process than our own. So I'll leave it at that for now. We can really have a session just on that.
Yeah. Andrea, did you have anything to say about that one?
Yeah, misconceptions. I do agree, read the instructions. I mean, they're like usually at the front of the application, so like you would have to intentionally bypass them, but you'd be surprised how many people do that. Okay, so I would say probably biggest misconception would be that we have some kind of like model personal statement that we're gonna like compare yours against, and that we need you to say certain things in it, and it has to have this. Look, I know it's on the internet. I know sometimes people are like, you must say this in your personal statement or you're not going to law school. Like, I mean, number one, that person, whoever's saying that, has no idea what the admissions committee is looking for. They can't know. We're the only ones, like, they have no idea. So you don't even know if you're guessing right. Number two, if you're writing a personal statement that you think the committee wants to hear, and it happens to be the same thing that everyone else thinks the committee wants to hear, now you all sound the same. And like, you don't want to sound the same. You want to sound like you. You want to stand out in your personal statement, and you're only going to do that by being yourself, because you are not like everybody else, and you don't want to look like everybody else. So even if there was some model personal statement, how are you going to stand out if yours sounds exactly like the model? So that's my spiel rant maybe on personal statements, is don't think that there's something that we're measuring in it. Same thing for resumes. We at least don't have like, we need to see that you did this, that, and that. We'll check it off and you get points or something like that. I don't know. I mean, it's not how it works. Like, again, you just want to show the things that you've done. Like Isabel said, you want to like showcase like all of your, work or experience or whatever. So, don't be too concerned that you have to have a certain something on your resume. Do what is interesting to you, and that's what's going to fill out your resume. You are going to look like you, and that is what we want, at least.
Thanks, Andrea. And I think touching on that, a lot of students here especially are concerned about the cycles being really competitive, right? Every cycle is competitive, but it's getting even more competitive. And they want to know, how then does their application stand out as you're reviewing? Like, what would you consider a candidate as a strong application? Let that simmer.
So, I mean, I want to start with, one of the primary goals you should have when submitting an application is, and some of you heard me say this earlier when you stopped by our table, is submitting the strongest application you can for yourself. That's going to be different for everyone. But what I want to remind you of, because I get this question, I imagine Andrea does as well, all the time, which is, how can I stand out? How can, I get that probably a dozen times a day. The thing is that you got to remember, and I always get to, like, what are you guys looking for, right? And the thing you have to remember is that you're in the driver's seat. You have to, who has lived my life in this room? No one, right? Same applies to you, right? Only you would know what your life experiences have been, such that you know what you want us to glean from your application. And you have to remember that. It's not so much what we want to see on your applications, it's what you want to convey to the admission committee. With regard to the increased applications, what I can say there is that, how am I this, like, diamond in the rough, right? And it's not so much, what's gonna really make your application be visible to the committee is really, again, remembering that you're on the driver's seat and that you're sharing these experiences or whatever it is you're wanting to share with the admission committee. We have to figure out that strategy for each of you. You have to figure that out, and I think you can get some guidance here and there, but you have to be able to share what those lived experiences have been. We can't make those decisions for you. That's something that you're gonna have to help us understand who you are. And I think if you really think about that, that's gonna really help you to start honing down on some of these things. Now, one thing, we're not gonna be shy about talking about LSAT and GPA performance. That's gonna be important because you're applying to an academic program. We have an obligation to the American Bar Association, at least both of our schools are ABA accredited institutions, or American Bar Association. We have standards that we have to meet. So they manage our process from cradle to grave, meaning from the admission stage to all the way to employment. And they can literally audit us and pull one of our applications and say, okay, Isabel, you admitted this candidate. Tell me what in that application led you to believe that they were going to be successful in your first year program and further beyond on the bar exam. So think about that as you're considering and contemplating your application.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, you know best what your strengths are, and, I don't know that. So, like, hey, if you do have a high LSAT score, that's great. That's going to be kind of a very visible thing on your application that is going to potentially be a strength of your application, right? Same thing if you happen to have a high GPA. But if you don't, or even if you do, like, there can be other things in your application that can be strengths as well. Like the experiences that you're going to be putting on your resume, the things you have to talk about in your personal statement and any essays that you do, your letters of recommendation. If your recommenders know you well and have very strong recommendations for you going to law school and being successful there, that is also going to be a strength. So I think of it in terms of, like, how might you stand out? And again, LSAT, GPA might be kind of obvious ways that you feel like you could stand out if those are high for you. But otherwise, there's a lot of other ways that you can stand out. And, I agree with Isabel. Put together the best application that you can put together, not necessarily trying to put together, like, the perfect application or the model application. Because number one, it doesn't exist. Number two, again, we want to know about you, and we don't want some, like, third party kind of thing. So I would say just play to your strengths and, get some help from like a pre-law advisor or, someone that, in admissions also, like I'm happy to talk. I'm sure that a lot of admissions officers are happy to talk with you specifically about, their application. So I think number one, arm yourself with some information from the schools. Number two, just put together the best application you can and just understand your strengths are your strengths. They may not be the same as someone else's strengths, and that's okay because we are looking to have like a very broad class with a lot of different strengths and interests and all of that.
Great. Yeah.
I do want to add one thing that I think is also a missed opportunity that I see. Y'all have to consider timing, right? So I maybe a couple years ago read an article that literally said if you're applying by the final deadline, you're already late. I wouldn't suggest that that's accurate, but as some of you heard me say earlier, when we were tabling, that the reality is that the closer we get to our final deadline, the more competitive and selective the process becomes if we're operating on a rolling admission process. This is going to be very important to you. That does not suggest or mean that I'm going to forfeit submitting a strong application simply to do it earlier. But I could tell you, same applicant, right? We open our application September 1st. Say they apply in October, they get admitted, maybe get a sizable or attractive scholarship offer, right? Instead, we fast forward, or, same applicant, they chose not to submit an application in October, but instead met our January 30th priority deadline. Well, at that point, we have been admitting by that time. So maybe they still get admitted, but maybe we're offering less money, right? And then we fast forward to our deadline. Again, same applicant. They decided or chose to submit the latest possible deadline date. By then, this same candidate could be waitlisted or denied. Do you see how it's same person. It has nothing to do with the quality of their application. It primarily has to do largely with the timing of when they submitted the application. So that would be another thing I would urge you to keep in mind as you're putting, your spreadsheet together of all the schools where you're applying and their deadlines and such.
That was literally my next question too. So thank you. No, that was perfect. I was going to actually ask if you both knew the date at the top of your head. So September 1st, you just opened up their application cycle, right? Correct. And then for BYU, Andrea, do you remember?
Yeah. Our application's always open on Labor Day, so it was September 1st this year. And then our priority deadline is going to be March 2nd. And final deadline May 1st. We also do rolling admissions, and the point, at least for us, the point really of the priority deadline, nothing magical happens on March 2nd or 3rd, but the point is really just to remind everyone that we do rolling admissions. So by that priority deadline of March 2nd, we will have admitted quite a bit of the class. And so we are still going to be admitting people between the priority deadline and the final deadline. We just will not be admitting as many people. So it would be advisable to definitely apply before then.
Our January 30th deadline does have significance because anyone who applies by then and is subsequently admitted is guaranteed first round award consideration or scholarship consideration. One thing I tell folks all the time is don't just focus on admission. Try to submit the strongest application that will get you an attractive scholarship offer. That is the best advice I could give you, frankly. Like, if you're submitting an application strong enough for a scholarship consideration or an award, that means you have a solid application for admission. Trust me. I mean, we've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of these by now.
Great, and no, thank you so much. With that, would you have any explanation for our pre-law students here about early decision and what that might be for them?
So we have an early decision application process. I'm smiling because this is the first year where I feel uncomfortable talking about it wholly, simply because historically that has involved a scholarship at the time of admission, and I just yesterday got those numbers. And so With that said, for anyone going through the application process this cycle, the deadline for that application is October 24th. It is a binding program, so that's what for our school distinguishes the early decision program from the regular decision process. That application also opened on September 1st. It is paramount that if you're going through that application process, you submit that application. If instead you want to go through the regular application process, you need to select the regular application. So there are two literally different application forms you submit. With early decision, if you're a Utah resident, which it sounds like the majority of you are, then the award that's guaranteed at the time of admission under the early decision program under the binding process is going to be $18,500 for residents for and that is renewable so long as you maintain a 2.5 GPA, which let me say is just the basic academic standard, meaning that we're not escalating the academic expectation for you to maintain that award. And then also good behavioral standing, right? And so the idea is that as long as you're enrolled, you should be good, right? And it's renewable for the 3-year period. For non-residents, it's that award's going to be about $27,000. So we try to compensate slightly for that $10,000 differential on between resident and non-resident. So this is a new thing for early decision. It is possible that you may be admitted under the regular window. So we guarantee having a decision made by November 21st. If you're not awarded $18,500 and instead you're awarded a different amount, that makes your process not binding, but you will still have the same deadline, which is way earlier. It's in November or December. So just keep that in mind. And this is why I'm struggling to articulate, because this is a new concept. We've not approached this process this way before.
And this is something that BYU doesn't currently have, correct?
We don't have early
Thanks, Isabel.
decision, but so whenever you apply, you'll get a decision back from us within 4 to 6 weeks. Regardless of when you apply. We do have 2 scholarships that have an earlier deadline, so you need to submit your application by December 31st if you want to be considered for the Clark Scholarship or the Achievement Fellowship. It's not a separate scholarship application. It's just that for those 2 scholarships, we will only pull nominees from the group of people that have applied by December 31st. So that is probably that's just kind of the early deadline. Now for those 2 scholarships as well, if you want to, if you're offered one of those scholarships and you want to accept the scholarship, you do have to withdraw your other law school applications. But if you decide, hey, I'm waiting on other law schools, you can forego that scholarship. You won't lose your admissions offer here. You would just, likely be offered a different scholarship. Well, you will be offered a different scholarship amount is all. So that's the closest we have to early decision. So keep the December 31st deadline in mind. If you're interested in being considered for one of those 2 scholarships, you can still be considered for all the other scholarships if you apply after December 31st, just not those 2.
And it sounds like those scholarships are pretty niche. Is that something that the students are able to access via website or?
Yep, there is information about our scholarships on the website. And also, if you have any questions, you can always just contact us. Literally, you're not bothering us or anything. You can ask us, just send us any questions or call with any questions, and we can explain the scholarships to you. But yeah, the information is on the website as well.
Great. And Isabel, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
If you apply for early admittance and you do not get it, do you go into a regular school or you just deny it outright?
So the question was, what happens when one is not admitted under the early decision process? And thank you, Melina, for asking. I realized I missed that right after I turned it over to Andrea. So the idea is that we're either going to admit or process over to regular review. No one will be denied or waitlisted under the early decision process. So you essentially get 2 bites of the apple for admission purposes. I wouldn't suggest that that is also the case for merit on entrance awarding. That's a different process.
Great. Thanks, Melina, and thank you, Isabel. Do you guys, by chance, know what the percentage of your students it might be for those that are receiving scholarships? Is it a pretty good chunk, or?
For the latest entering class for our student body, it was 87% received some kind of award.
Same.
Everyone in the incoming class has gotten some kind of scholarship award for the past few years now. And I want to say it's usually around 40%, sometimes up to 50% that has full tuition or higher.
Wow. I think that's super insightful. I'm hearing lots of wows. Yeah. You were going to say something, Isabel, were you?
I was just going to say our average was close to 20,000 if we're like taking the lowest to the highest of everyone who was awarded.
That's fantastic. I learned that just now as well. That's great. I think last question that I'll ask, and then after that we'll have some time for you all to ask some questions through the Slido. So what advice would you give students who may feel non-traditional, whether coming from different majors, life experiences, or career paths? It sounds like there are some folks here who have taken those gap years, things like that, but any perspective and input with that?
Yeah, I guess I'd say first of all, you're not behind. You're gonna be fine. Like that's one of the things I hear a lot from people who, like, for whatever reason, feel like that they're not like the traditional law school applicant and they're behind, or that it's something they have to overcome, or that it's like a hurdle that they have. Honestly, in my experience, none of that is true. Like, it's not like something you need to, like, that you have to feel like, oh, I need to overcome this in my application. It's a weakness of my application. Like, I guarantee you it is not a weakness of your application. So, like, I went to law school. I was almost 30 when I started law school. My undergrad is in clinical laboratory science. I didn't know any lawyers. I never took a history or political science class, and I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. So everything is going to be fine. Like, I was really nervous as well that, like, somehow it put me behind. These people have been wanting to go to law school their whole lives. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And then I realized, like, that is not what the admissions committee is really even, like, evaluating. They're not, like, evaluating, like, I don't know, your heritage or something to see if you're worthy to go to law school. Like, that's not the way it works. So I would say, honestly, again, just play to your strengths. Like, if your undergraduate degree is in something that is kind of unique, that gives you a different perspective on things than you think maybe other people might have in the law school class, that's great. That's actually a good thing. Or if due to your age or your family circumstances or, you know, your background, where you're raised, how you're raised, whatever, any of those things that you feel like, oh my gosh, it makes me different, like, maybe change it from, oh my gosh, it makes me different and that's bad, to like, oh my gosh, it makes me different and that's good, is kind of the way I would look at it. So again, I would just focus on like who you are as an individual, because we are looking for individuals. We don't admit numbers, we admit people. And like the more we get to know you as a person, including your life experiences and, you know, all those things that make you unique, the more that we get to know that, then like the better, honestly, better chance you probably have of being admitted, to be honest.
Great, thanks. Oh, go ahead, Isabel. Do you have
I
anything
was
else?
just gonna say, for like, if you're considering non-traditional in the sense of like age or separation from like your last academic experience, that's actually pretty common for us. And so I would say, just generally speaking, for our law school, the majority of our applicants are quote unquote a non-traditional. So I feel like that's what I'm working with on a regular basis. I want to acknowledge that on a national basis, the majority of applicants are coming primarily directly out of their undergraduate program. And so, I mean, again, going back to, you know, making sure that we understand what you've been really doing with your time. That's what we want to know. You have to account for the time, whether you've been out of your undergraduate or just, again, last academic experience for some time. What have you been doing with that time? That's what we want to know. And understanding that you still have access to potential recommenders. We only require one letter of recommendation, though we accept up to 3 for folks who are. I myself was 6 years separated from my undergraduate experience before I started law school. But like at that point, I had my employers that could potentially serve as a letter of to serve as the recommender on my behalf. It's not as important what that title of that person is as much as the relationship they have with the recommendee and how they've had an oversight and be in a position to provide feedback on some kind of outcome you're producing, whether it be in an academic or professional setting.
Great, thanks, Isabel. Okay, so it looks like we have about 10 minutes left. I'm gonna try my best to cover, there are a lot of really great questions here, so I'll pick a couple of these, and then maybe we'll go, I'll start with the quickest ones first, but before that, I will just remind everybody, so we'll have some of these recordings and some of the presentations available at a different date. If we could all just make sure to not record, especially when we're going into our keynote speaker discussion, just making sure that we don't record, just want to be respectful of that. So just brief announcement about that. We'll go ahead with these questions. Okay. And this is for both of you. What is the average LSAT score for admissions at the UN at BYU?
I don't think we actually track average, but the median LSAT score this incoming class was 170. Keep in mind it's a median, half the class has that above, half has below.
So median, for those of you who may be unfamiliar, right, like with your average, what you're calculating is the sum of all the numbers, and then you divide it by the total of, the total numbers that you're adding up. Whereas the median, I hate to say we even calculate, because all we do is really reorder everyone from the starting point, right, of GPAs or LSAT, and then all the way to the highest, right? So that's whoever falls in the middle. So say we have 100 people, then at 50, that person is determining our median. Make sense? So that's what we're reporting to you. And in fact, when all the law schools, when you talk to them about GPA, LSAT, you refer to the medians. And so median LSAT for us was a 167 or 166 for the entering class. Median undergraduate GPA was a 387.
Thank you so much. And would you actually mention the GPA for BYU as well?
Sorry, median GPA was 3.95.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, how many times can I apply to law school? Does it reflect poorly if you apply more than once?
I mean, I suppose we don't let me start with our process. We don't have a limit on the number of times you can apply to our law program. But what I will say is this. I want to start by saying that it is very common where we have reapplicants, and then I get the follow-up question of what's their likelihood of admission. I have the second time around, right? And I have seen an increased number of our reapplicants being offered admission on their second go, on their second try. That said, I have also